Hey, how's it going, Sonya? Hey,
Hey, how are you? Yeah, can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you fine.
Oh, cool. All right, awesome. This is my first time at this, so I'm a Instagram Live newbie, but I think it'll work out well.
Fantastic. Sounds great.
Yeah. How are you doing?
Doing well as can be amidst this trying time, but cannot complain. Just rolling with the punches.
Yeah, thank you so much for being with us today. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank you also to everybody who's joined. I see a lot of you have come in to listen to Will talk about his journey, and really appreciate you being here with us for our first remote AFS. Will is class of 2011 at William and Mary, right?
Hmm.
Correct. So Will's class of 2011, and he is the founder and CEO of EdConnective, which is based in Richmond, Virginia. So a little bit close to William Mary. I know we're all missing campus right now, so he's closer, at least than me, up here in New Jersey. So good to chat with you. Um, and yeah, this is going to be a short little segment, and really just talk to you about, how you got to where you are, and the journey along the way. I like to start off every AFS with asking the founder, when you were growing up, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I think I wanted to be a fighter pilot, actually.
That's awesome. Where did that come
Yeah,
from?
video games.
I
Pretty much
got you.
video games. I think my risk tolerance has changed since then, though.
That's awesome. Yeah, people have had really wacky answers. I know Sam Pressler, when we had him, which seems like a long time ago, but wasn't really that long ago, said he wanted to be a clown, I think. So we've had a wide range of prospective professions. Yeah. Just to start off, then, we usually do these a little bit longer, but I want to try to, leave room also for some of our comments from the audience on Instagram Live. But to start off, I want to ask, I know that you did a starting block fellowship after you graduated William and Mary.
Hmm.
And I was checking them out a little bit on their website, and it seemed so cool. And I read that their mission has to do with courageous vulnerability, courageous leadership. And I kind of was really wondering how that mission, influenced you when you were starting at Connective and when you had moved on from the fellowship into your own venture.
Yeah, for me, uh, actually, an older, so an alumni of William and Mary suggested I do the program, and he said he had a great experience, and he recommended I try it, and so I did. And I think the biggest thing for me was I really didn't know much about social entrepreneurship at all as a
Mm-hmm.
concept or as just a pathway I could take as a career. And so, for that week, it really just immersed me in that social entrepreneurship culture, social impact. And I was around about 100 other millennials and young people who were actively doing epic stuff. Like they were starting companies and they were solving big problems. And it was in that ethos, in that space, where I really got excited about this idea of, man, wouldn't it be cool to be a social entrepreneur? It's like doing well
Mm-hmm.
by doing good. And yeah, I think that really helped me catch that vibe and that spirit of social impact.
To that end, I was wondering, how do you, because I've heard this term social entrepreneurship, in a lot of spaces. I did an internship that was based in it this summer, but despite that, I don't really have a grasp on, what that is and what the kind of key tenets of social entrepreneurship are. And it also seems like everybody has a different definition. So I was just wondering what your take on that field is.
Yeah, for me, it is leveraging the for-profit model, leveraging the typical business model to create and engender and sustain social impact. And for me, when I studied it in grad school and took classes, I really struggled with this idea: should I be a nonprofit, or should I be a for-profit social enterprise?
Mm.
And the historical paradigm for me was, hey, if you want to do good, you go start a nonprofit. You know, you go
Mm.
the Mother Teresa route. You start giving donations. It was the only heuristic I had to think about making impact.
Mm.
But the more you dig into social entrepreneurship, the more you realize that certain types of impact, they actually lend themselves to a for-profit model as a more sustainable model. And so, for instance, in my space in education, the impact I want to create, the school systems can actually pay for it. And by the
Mm.
school systems paying for it, that funds the impact that I want to generate. As opposed to if I did a nonprofit model, and for instance, I was more focused on getting donations to give away the service. And so,
Mm.
if you choose one model versus the other, it can have implications and ramifications on how you do your work, your ability to scale. Because if I was spending more of my time getting donations, then maybe I'm spending less of my time actually doing the work. Or
Mm.
if I'm more beholden on donations, when that funding stream dries up, that big foundation doesn't write a check, maybe the impact stops. Versus if
Mm.
people are continuously buying the product that's creating the impact I want to see, then it can be more self-sustaining. And
Mm.
so, and also for the for-profit model, especially if you go the high growth venture route, you know, you can get to a level of scale that sometimes may not be possible with a nonprofit or may take much longer for a nonprofit. And so if you create a high growth tech startup, you know, you could be in every household, you know, in 5 years. You know, that's not crazy to be an Airbnb, a Lyft, or whatever. Versus the nonprofit model may not always be as rapidly scalable. And so one's not more inherently better than the other. It's just one of those things that you have to wrestle with.
Got it. Yeah, that's so interesting. I never thought about it that way because I've had a lot of nonprofit experience, and working at the Entrepreneurship Center has been the first time where I kind of realized that like people can have the same goals but go about it different ways, and kind of with different mindsets, to the same end of that social good. So that's really interesting. Was there a time where you thought Ed Connective would be a nonprofit, or were you always on this path of social entrepreneurship?
Um, I wrestled with it a lot during grad school. And so it was that year in which I was working on my master's program where I took a lot of classes, I did a lot of research, wrote a lot of papers, did a lot of reflection. And it was during that time that I finally landed on the for profit social enterprise model. But it surely wasn't a sure shot when I first went into it. I had to
Mm,
wrestle with it.
yeah. Did what kind of personal values that you hold close to your heart went into that decision? Was there anything that you thought about? Like, this is the kind of founder I want to be. This is the kind of organization that I want to lead personally, and this is the way that I want to foster a culture that went into that sort of process.
I think for me, it's always been about how can I make the most impact most quickly and most sustainably.
Mm.
And otherwise, I would have took some business classes while I was at William and Mary. There was no entrepreneurship center. I had to learn it all from the start. I was kind of late into that game, but all the decisions I've made about Ed Connective, first and foremost, is thinking about how can I have a scalable enterprise where, of course, you can teach a man to fish and he can feed his family for a lifetime. But what if you change the fishing industry? And so
Mm.
industry is my goal. And, that's what led a lot of the decisions that I've made to date.
Got you. Wow, very cool. So, looking at all of that and thinking about your own personal journey, how would you, if you had a William Mary student who came to you and said, I want to make, do good in the world, make social change, I don't really know where to start, how would you advise them?
Yeah. Um, Service learning is awesome because to solve a problem, you really have to know a lot about the problem and you really
Mm.
have to be immersed in it for a period of time so you can um, make smart decisions and to be equipped to actually do something audacious and be effective in it. You really have to know what you're talking about. And so, one, service learning is an awesome way to do that, to gain empathy with the population that you're trying to address and to generate insights about how you might go about addressing that. And the second piece is just, do your homework, do your research. Like, if you have, especially if you're a student, oh my gosh, you have classes already where you have to write papers. You might as well be writing it on something that you care about. There's no better time to start, a company than while you're in school. Like, do your research on it. Like, actually go to the library, you know what I mean? Like, use the journals and the articles and all that good stuff. And this is an exercise in really knowing a problem before you try and rush out and say, I have the solution to it. So, gotta like to do your homework.
How did you do that with Ed Connective? Did you go talk to teachers? Did you, talk to students, school administrators? What was kind of your market research, so to speak, with Ed Connective?
Yeah, so I spent a year working at a charter school, and so that was awesome.
Very
and
cool.
then my master's program, just go talk to the professors. I mean, you have a unique opportunity, especially as William & Mary students, that you have some industry leaders that, their office hours, no one ever shows up, right? So you have an amazing opportunity not only to get the knowledge straight from experts, but also to build relationships with those experts who can help you and advise you and connect you in the game farther into your entrepreneurial journey. And so I was talking to professors and building relationships with people outside of my department, outside of my whole school. Like, I was over in the School of Business while I was at UPenn, and I wasn't even a business student. And so you have access to these resources that can help you build those relationships and help you build the things you need to really get started and to know what you're talking about.
Awesome. Also, I would encourage, just as we, go through the AFS, if you guys have questions. I know we already got one that was sent in, but I think I did something weird with the Instagram and got rid of it by mistake. I'm sorry. If you want to send that again so I could bring it up for Will towards the end of our discussion, I would love that. So it's weird because I can't see you guys, but I trust that you hear me and can see me. But yeah, I totally agree with that point of, getting outside of your department, just getting to know people. How would you, I don't know if, this was your experience, but I know a lot of William & Mary students hesitate because, they're like, I don't want to go into a community that, isn't mine, and, try to, be like, I'm just like you, or like, I have the solution. And so how do you kind of wrestle with that, going into unfamiliar environments and trying to, help, but also do that in a respectful way where, you know the context and things like that? How do you go about those interactions face to face?
Yeah. So one is, I don't believe that you have to be from a community to impact a community, to be a community's ally. But if you're not from that community, even if you are, like, you got to do your homework and you got to know a lot about the problem. Like, you got to study it. You got to do your research so you're knowledgeable. And when you're interacting with people from that community, you're always leading with empathy so you can build relationships. So you can do a lot of listening, not a lot of talking, just listening, right? The director of instruction at Ed Connective, she oversees like 65 instructional coaches who are doing work across the nation, largely in low-income urban schools and districts. And she's a white woman. I mean, she's married to a Latino man, and she has a, biracial daughter. But I mean, she does a tremendous job at leaning into the work, so she can be culturally conscious. So she can have a high level of cultural dexterity, and so she'll read books about the subject, like Dr. Emden's culturally relevant pedagogy, or she'll go read Courageous Conversations, and she'll go to the workshops and things. And so, I mean, she can navigate and speak more fluently to issues of race and class and things. Sometimes more than people of color. I found you can gain a high level of dexterity even if you're not from that community. But you do got to do your homework and lean into the work.
Yeah, it seems like there's a theme here of knowing, learning about it and coming from a humble sort of curiosity standpoint of what can I learn and who can I reach out to, sort of thing. Which I think is great.
Yeah. And you might not be the expert, but you can, make friends, build relationships with experts to shore up where your weaknesses are. And you can have a counselor, advisors, and you can do all that good stuff.
That sounds like one of our eight. We have 8 pillars of entrepreneurship that we kind of build off of at the center, and so that sounds like one of them, collaboration. So I love that.
Yep.
All right, let's see if we can take some questions. If I can navigate this right, because we have a lot coming in for you. All right, so this is a good one. So, can you see it on the screen?
How do you currently advertise at Connective?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Big question, but I'll try and truncate the answer. What I'll say is that sales has been the most difficult part of my learning journey. Especially as just like a regular liberal arts student that didn't get his MBA or whatever. Like I was not trained to sell or learn how to like know what marketing is or any of that good stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of ways you can do it, but for us, relationships is the number one thing. And so in our space, school and district buyers buy from who they know and who they trust. Like 70% of buyers buy from someone in their personal network. Like, oh, Will's good people. I've used them before, whatever. And so initially, like getting started, like go to your old high school, literally go to, if there's someone in your choir that's, principal, like go talk to that person. And I'm using education as the example because that's the space I'm in. Sure. But if you start with relationships, that can snowball. You get your first client, you can use that client to give you referrals and references. And then people start to talk to you because they trust the person that recommended you. And there's that whole thing. And obviously, as you grow, you supplement that with calling into your clientele, email outreach. Like, I think we're like year 7, we just hired a director of marketing, and like we just had our first webinar. And there's a lot of ways you can do it, but relationships is the most effective way for us.
Awesome. Yeah, very cool. All right, so moving on, we got a lot more. Let's see. How about this one?
How important is coaching in business and education? So that's definitely a softball. It's very important. Muy importante. It's just like in any industry, in any profession, coaching is the number one way to improve, to get better faster. So we have a core value of continual improvement at Connective. Like everybody gets coached. Everything's performance based. And something we believe in wholeheartedly. And we see the most gains, pronounced gains in performance when you do get that one-on-one feedback on a regular basis. So it's paramount.
What do you think is key to giving good feedback?
It's got to be bite-sized, and it's got to be actionable. And so you can't give someone, 30 different things they need to work on. It's overwhelming. It's just nowhere to start. It's got to be, here's one thing you can do tomorrow, and here's how you can do it. And one more thing, let's practice it. And so to build behavior change is one of the most difficult things for humans to do. And so having it be actionable, like feedback, and then having enough practice to get to behavior change is critical.
Very cool. All right. Oh my gosh, we have so many. This is so great. Okay. This is a good one too. You guys are great.
How do you plan to grow at Connective? So, it's a lot of hard work. But, I mean, honestly, it's a combination of a lot of the things that I just mentioned. You continue to get new clients, you do well with those clients, and if you do well with those clients, they will evangelize for you. You will get they'll say, Ed Connective is awesome, we love Will, Ed Connective is great, you should buy it too. And so it's a combination of persistent outreach to get new people in the door, and then performing and repeating.
Got you. Cool. Do you have plans to grow Ed Connective in the future? Like, is that something that's on your radar? Are you always looking to do that, or what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, as a business owner, or that's our goal is to be nationwide. Our goal is to be disruptive. Our goal is to be the new norm. We want to be, school 2.0. We want to be
Yeah.
the new way of doing things. And to do that, it's going to take rapid growth, and it's going to take, helping ensure a highly effective teacher in every classroom, like nationwide.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you started in Richmond, right?
I started it in Philly while I was in my master's program at Penn,
Oh,
but
very cool.
then moved back to Richmond.
Very cool. Why did you decide to start it in Richmond then? Just because you were moving back there, or was that like a decision based on the education system there, or what were you thinking?
Was thinking that I had a long-term girlfriend who then became my fiance, who then became my wife. There's a wedding picture back there.
Oh,
So
awesome.
she was based in Norfolk at the time when I first left, and then she got a good job in Richmond. And so I'm the more transient one since I'm an entrepreneur, and this work I can be anywhere. And so definitely chasing my wife.
That's awesome. Very cool. All right, let's see. Let's pick some more questions. All right. Nice.
Whew. Most challenging part of your job. Sales. I know I keep coming back to this topic, but I think, especially as a student at a place like William Mary or any other place, you're trained to be able to encounter pretty much anything and be like, I can figure out how to do that. Like, they call
Yeah.
me to like go start coding, like I can figure it out. Just everything's online. We can look it up. If I need to work a spreadsheet, I can do that. I figured out. I did that for the first time. Like, oh, what's this? I don't know. You can figure it out. Like, it's just there's that cycle of continuous improvement. I can figure it out in a very linear way.
Yeah.
Do X, Y, and Z. I think sales is a little bit different because it's so people oriented. It's not as linear. It's not like, hey, if I do equal sum, like this is gonna sum everything in this column. It's no. It takes a lot of error, a lot of failure, and a lot of people saying no. It takes a lot of persistence. And it took me a long time to figure out that there's even a science to sales. Like you can learn how to do it. But even then, because it requires someone else saying yes and paying money for a thing, I found it to be by far the most difficult things to learn. And quite frankly, if you don't know how to sell, you just have a hobby, right? You don't have a business. You just have a thing that you're working on, you're tinkering, and maybe it's enjoyable, but the revenue is what helps you grow and sustain.
So to that end, another one of our pillars is failing wisely. How do you do that, especially in areas that are challenging for you, like sales?
Yeah. So having a growth mindset is key. Getting feedback, asking why is key. Like lots of feedback and asking a lot of questions. So asking experts, asking people who supposedly know how to do that in the industry. Like,
Yeah.
I guess if I don't know sales, like I go ask somebody. If I don't know like how to fundraise, I go ask somebody who's done it. Like just go ask somebody who has done that, or network your way into someone who's awesome at that. Then you can get that stage counsel. And then part two of that is just incredible persistence. Like
Yeah.
I could have quit like a long time ago, way before I ever got my first sale. And I'd be like, well, never learned how to sell. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I've taken like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shots before they first started to fall. And it was almost like it's just a persistence game. Like one of these shots is gonna fall. Like I keep taking shots, keep improving. It's gonna start falling.
Yeah, something's got to work out. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So let's see. I'm trying to look through the rest of the questions we have here. Um, that's a good one. What does partnership look like for you in terms of this question?
Have you partnered with education nonprofit organizations? In a few instances, there have been some unique partnerships where some nonprofits may have a relationship with schools and districts, and we can leverage that relationship to be able to serve schools or districts within those networks. I mean, we haven't like collaborated with a nonprofit to raise funds to donate services or something like that. We've considered, but we haven't done that. Simply because schools and districts, they have the money to pay for the thing that we're selling. That teacher professional development is an $18 billion space, and it's use it or lose it funds. So if they don't use this money, they literally have to give it back to the government. And so
Wow.
it's not one of those spaces where you have to create a line item to convince somebody to spend money on this new thing. People spend money on teacher professional development every year. People go to workshops, conferences, etc. So it'd be different if it wasn't that type of space. Then maybe I would have to lean on a nonprofit model to get donations.
Yeah.
But it's just different for the space.
That's really cool. I've never thought about that before. I'm thinking about all of the like teacher development days that we had that were just days off in school for me growing up. There were conferences and things like that, but this is definitely a new model. Can you walk us through, walk us through your model? Just for people.
Yeah. So version 1 is that we sell to a school leader, like a principal or a district leader, to help improve the performance of their teacher. And what that looks like is a teacher will record the instruction and share that recording, that game tape, with a master educator from Ed Connective.
Okay.
I messed up my screen. But,
you're good.
So a master educator will look at your game tape as a teacher and then provide live feedback over video chat. It'll happen on a weekly basis. Now, interestingly enough, you know, I won't say we're pivoting, but we're adjusting to meet the current circumstances of COVID right now. So we're seeing a wholesale need to retrain the teacher workforce to be able to know how to teach online. And so this is the biggest adaptive learning challenge of a generation. Schools and districts across the nation are having to teach kids online for the first time, and most teachers don't know how to do it. And so our model has adjusted a bit to do exactly what we did before, but instead of looking at physical classroom instruction, we're looking at online classroom instruction, and then providing feedback based on that.
Great. Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Like, how is everything happening really impacting you all? But that makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
All right. Let's pick a final question from the audience. Let's see. Okay. Let's end on this one. Seems like a good one to finish up with. Let's see. Can you read it all, or do I have to? Or can you read any of it? I'm like.
I don't see anything posted this time.
Okay, let me see. Okay, I'll read it to you. Do you have any advice for a senior who is starting a nonprofit organization in Virginia helping disadvantaged youths? And what's the end of the question? I'm not sure of the end of the question, but I think that is the gist of it. Let's see.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the gist of it. I was going to see if I could find more of it, but this kind of is around the same, you know, that what would you advise, I guess now for somebody who's already set on starting a nonprofit in maybe a vulnerable community?
Yeah. That's a big question without knowing a lot of context. But what I will say is, you know, while you're doing your research into figuring out what you want to do with your nonprofit, be sure that cataloging nonprofits that do similar work is a part of that process. There's a lot of overlap that can happen sometimes. Like, oh, I want to start this thing about reading. Like, well, there's like 100 other reading programs like already out. And so, like, are you different? Is it a true gap? Or are you going to be taking away people from an existing program that's already effective? That type of thing. And then secondly, it's just kind of like, talk to people, you know, do some homework. But yeah, without knowing more context, it's hard to say more than that.
Yeah. Okay, I think actually we have the person who asked the question, and I'm going to try to put them on live instead of me, so you'll be talking to them face to face. Let's see if this works. Bear with me, everyone. All right. Doo-doo-doo. Oh, wait, I'm the host, so I guess I can't replace myself. But, okay, interesting. Or say it live. Okay, so I think it was just helping disadvantaged youths and communities from what we have in the comments here. So because he can't say it live, that's the gist of the question. But also, I would be happy to connect you guys after this live stream, if that would be okay with you, Will, if you're open to talking more about that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Awesome. All right. Well, it looks like we are almost at time here for our first remote AFS. Thank you so much for joining us, Will. Really appreciate all your insight.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Very cool. All right, I'll post this. And Will, is it okay if I post your contact info as well, if anybody has any questions or wants to reach out more?
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, very cool. Thank you so much for everyone tuning in to Alumni Founder Series with Will Morris. I hope everyone stays safe and healthy, and just is pulling through it, taking it day by day. That's clearly what I'm doing here in my house. So wishing the best for you all. All right, tuning out. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.